Hello and welcome to part 2 of my chat with the legendary Stu Whiffen. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, then stop right now, go and find part 1, give that a listen, and then come back and find us. Part 2 basically exists because I went through a big bunch of CDs with Stu, being a music anorak like myself, and we had a great conversation in itself. It was almost a self-contained part of the conversation, so we split it off into this extra bonus episode. So if you're interested in the music and in Stu's taste in music, then you're in the right spot. Here is part 2 of The Giant Pod with Stu Whiffen. Soundtrack somewhere.
Oh, wonderful.
She's got Cheap Trick and AC/DC and all kinds of stuff on it. Right, I've got this stack of CDs that I mentioned to you earlier.
Wicked.
I don't know we'll call this a quick fire round because maybe we'll be I don't know. Let's see what happens. Right. So yeah, big anorak. I saw some pictures on your Instagram and I was like, this guy's collection is like, I feel like we have a very similar in terms of size, quantity, very similar collection, which is very, very cool. So, right, this bad boy turns 30 years old today. The Lars.
Don't like them.
Really?
Interesting. There's two bands that everybody thinks I should love.
Right.
And I had this conversation. Someone chose There She Goes by the Lars on the podcast.
That's a big song.
It's a great song. There She Goes is a great song. As an indie DJ, I had to not play it for about 10 years because I heard it too much.
Right.
But then when I hear it now, I enjoy it. But that album is the one album that when, the Mondays put out Bummed and Roses put out Roses and all of these albums that were just integral in my formative years of, becoming an indie kid. I just never got the Lars. I never got that album. The whole story of the Lars fascinates me. I think he's a unique character. But that album is one of two bands that people are like, what? You don't like them? And I'm like, I just don't. It just don't tick the box for me. But
doesn't tick your box.
I can totally appreciate that There She Goes is an absolutely wonderful, wonderful pop record.
Absolutely. So we're off to an interesting start. I'm going to hit you next with some Jane's Addiction.
Oh, mate, we can talk about that all night long.
True. What's this one? Ritual D-Lo Habitual.
Yep.
It's great. Caught Stealing is on this one. Stop.
Yep.
Great stuff.
That record, that record's spectacular. I think Perry Farrell's one of the coolest frontmen ever.
Yeah.
I think Dave Navarro's one of the coolest guitarists ever. I'm not into guitarists that play like wiggly diddly stuff. I want it to sound great in the song. I'm not a fan of stuff your Steve Vais and things like that. And I think Jane's Addiction don't sound like anyone. Perry Farrell don't sound like anyone. It's psychedelic. It's when did that come out? 80. 90.
Their first one was the 80s.
Yeah.
88, 89.
When was that?
Their
90?
first one came
91?
I can't see it, man. It's not on here.
It would have been very early 90s. And obviously the video...
90.
So the video of Being Caught Stealing was everywhere. And then they just literally just stopped. Perry set up Pulling for Pyros. Navarro joined the Chili Peppers for a bit. And then they come back with... an hour. One of the best intros ever.
Just because.
One
of my favourites of all time.
And I just see that video and I was like, that geezer's abused his body for so many years. He looks fucking incredible. And he still looks incredible. I got to see him again about 5 years ago. They come and play Ritual at Brixton Academy. Brilliant. I had a really funny story from a mate of mine that supported him at a festival. And he said, like, he walked past their dressing room and the makeup artist was accentuating Navarro's six-pack with with makeup to make it really pop. Like, I hope that's true, because
I do as well.
I love him even more for that.
Yeah.
Jane's Addiction, wonderful.
10 out of 10 band. Ready for this one?
Oh,
Pete Tong's selection, Human Traffic.
yeah.
I only saw that film recently.
Oh, ain't it good?
It's great.
Yeah, I love that film. I guess as a Essex, bordering East London, Danny Dyer in that film is fucking great. Like, is it Moff? Is his character called Moff in that? It's fucking brilliant. And I think John Sims, incredible. I think John Sims was also in 24 Hour Party People playing Bernard Sumner from New Order, and I thought he bossed it. Like, I think he's a dude. Life on Mars, he's a dude. But yeah, Human Traffic is like, I mean, I can't even think of the records that are on there. What's on that soundtrack?
We've got The Weekend Has Landed. That's then you got CJ. Oh, no, that's a film. So in here they've got cuts from the film, haven't they? Clips, sound bites. DJ Boland, got Fatboy Slim, Jackknife Lee, Lucid.
So Jackknife Lee was in a rock and roll band. Jackknife Lee was in a band called Compulsion,
right?
And who I saw supporting Smashing Pumpkins, and they were just fucking incendiary. And then and I'm sure he went on to become the Jackknife Lee, who's now super producer, like produces like the biggest bands on the fucking planet, like produce like REM and fucking. Has he just done the Biffy Clyro album? I'm not sure.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's quite a trajectory, isn't it?
Mm.
And then there's a great. They obviously got to love Spliff Politics of Howard Marks.
Yes.
Next one, Moby, Play. Now this isn't big for me, but I know this is big for guys of your generation.
It's not big for me.
No.
I think the track "Go" by Moby from 1989 maybe is one of the greatest dance records ever made. I love that. But that album with all the kind of samples on it, I think Moby's a weird young man, and he made rave music, and then picked up a guitar and made a punk album, and then come back with that album, which I guess was on every advert under the sun, and probably made him a gazillionaire. But it weren't for me, that one.
All right. Have you heard his track went on the Bourne soundtrack?
No.
Identity. That is, I think that's Moby. I love that one.
Yeah.
Here's one. Life Forms, Future Sound of London.
Wow. Blimey, that's an interesting one. So again, when I was listening to Moby Go, I would have been listening to Papua New Guinea by Future Sound of London, which is one of the greatest dance records ever made. It's from outer space, that record. When I sat down with a guy called Dave Spears, who's a producer and works very closely with Underworld, and he was saying he'd just been doing some stuff with members of Future Sound of London. So I don't know if that's come to light yet, but that's something I'm always intrigued to hear anything from people like that.
Fun fact, Brian is a good friend of mine from Future Sound of London, and he has done he's got another thing, he goes under Yage. He's done some remixes of my hardcore band.
Right.
And they're proper fucking out there. It's proper out there shit. He just did one of our latest track, Agility, and he put like an 808 on it and everything like that. But
I would love to hear that, man.
Yeah, I'll send it through to you, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm trying to get Brian on the pod, but he's so fucking elusive. He's aloof. He's the one that, like, in the interviews that he's got his face fucking pixelated and shit. Like,
I love that. I'd love him more for stuff like that.
Yeah. I would really love to get him on, but I've got to have to sort of coax him out somehow, I think. David Gray, White Ladder.
Right, okay, interesting. So I guess we're going mid to late 90s. No, late 90s. I don't know. Yeah. So I think he gets a bit of a rap, David Gray, for being a bit Radio 2.
Yeah, he is a bit.
But the stuff he done up until then, that I only discovered after hearing that album. Yeah. And there was a film called This Year's Love, which I really liked.
Oh, the song is amazing as well.
That song is beautiful.
Yeah.
And Sail Away is in the film as well. And I think Sail Away is a really good song. And what I didn't like was, I like Babylon. And was it Please Forgive Me? Was that on there?
Yeah, track 1. It's got the sort of the breakbeat dancey sort of.
But did it, right? That's what I was going to say. Then when it got released for the radio, they put them beats behind it, and that spoiled it for me, because I kind of like folky David Gray, and I weren't interested in the kind of the breakbeat side of it.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Here's one. Is a band that changed my life. The Misfits.
Okay.
Static Age. How are you with the Misfits?
I'm not massively knowledgeable on the Misfits. I know lots of people that are obsessed with that band, and I mean, I know, like, when I guess going back to maybe 2002, there was lots of clubs happening where I live, like underground events that were playing kind of Ramones and sort of post-punk stuff, and like almost like some kind of really sort of dark disco stuff, and the Misfits were getting played as well. And and I mean, to say it's a strong look's an understatement. I'm not, I'm a fan, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm super knowledgeable on them.
No, fair enough. Here's one. You'll know this one well. Angels, Dan the Sack versus Scroobius Pip.
Bag of shit. No. It's read me the track listing. Read that track listing.
Oh, good God, it's a great one. The Beat That My Heart Skipped, Development, Look for the Woman, Rappers Battle, Tommy C, Fixed, Angels, my favourite, A Letter from God to Man, Magician's Assistant, Back from Hell, Thou Shalt Always Kill, which was my introduction years and years and years ago. I actually recently had to buy this because I had a really shit MP3 of it. And then it's Waiting for the Beat to Kick in. It's the closer. A Letter from God to Man, fuck me.
I mean, I as much as he's my mate, and it pains me to big him up, and I knew Dan. I grew up with Dan. I didn't grow up with Pip. Right. Like we all live very close to each other in Essex. Dan no longer lives in Essex, but Dan used to come to all my clubs, and as did Pip. But I knew Dan pretty well, and I think he's the person that most of my mates have punched more than anyone else. And it's really weird, because I'd never punched Dan. I always really liked Dan, but he used to really annoy a lot of my mates. And he had incredible music taste, and he was very charismatic and very outgoing. And I was just really drawn to him. I just thought he was. I still think he's a really fucking nice dude. And I love getting to hang out with Dan, and it doesn't happen that often now because he lives in Reading. But then, obviously, I knew that they both worked in HMV, and they were both making music. And Pip was the hip hop dude from around my way that looked like a hip hop dude, but liked fucking Alien Ant Farm and Green Day, and would be at my club every week. But and then they just had some amazing success, and I'm just fucking like proper fiercely proud to have them as mates, and to have Pip as a business partner, and he's so measured. Like, whenever I'm feeling unsure of something, I can go, Pip, and he'll go, right, and he'll just give you a real good balanced answer. And like, I know that people think he's got the wisdom because he's got that beard and he looks a bit profity, but he, I've worked with lots and lots of people that have, been famous for, music and acting and things like that over the years. And sometimes it's not good for them as people. Pip's one of the good guys. He's just, the stuff that people see on social media and hearing his lyrics that people love about him, they should love about him, because that's for real. He's just a fucking good lad. Really is one of the best. And lovely dude.
He went off the radar for me because I just stopped paying attention. But I loved that album, and I really liked the video to "Thou Shalt Always Kill." And I didn't really know what happened then, because I was mostly in sort of my rock punk thing. Those were my circles until Huey launched his old podcast, I guess, It's sort of in the hiatus at the moment, and he and I was like, "Oh damn, Scroobius Pip, I know that name." And then I realised he had like one of the biggest podcasts going, and I was like, "Well, fuck me, yeah, great."
Yeah, they're really good pals. That's how I met Huey, was through Pip.
Right.
And I think Huey went on Pip's podcast quite early on as well. Very early on. He may well have been in like one of the first 10 episodes.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. Here's a double feature for you. This is Neil Young Harvest and After the Gold Rush.
Yeah, I'm not a massive Neil Young fan.
Really?
Yeah, I like both them albums. And occasionally I'll put Harvest on. I've got on vinyl. I'll put that on vinyl and I'll enjoy it. I'm a ridiculous Pearl Jam fan, and so I know by default I should also love Neil Young.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like he wouldn't make my top 100.
Really interesting. Yeah. All right, we'll move on.
Oh, mate, they're in my top fucking 10, mate.
Sorry, Faith No More, Angel Dust.
You'd have none of your fucking new metal.
Right.
You wouldn't have Deftones. You wouldn't. Just fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like Mike Patton, one of the greatest frontmen ever, one of the greatest voices ever. You know, mate, he was one of the first guys that would bark and then sing. You know, He was doing Chino before Chino done Chino. And and he looked so fucking cool. Like when he had long hair, he looked so fucking cool. Then all of a sudden, he was like the first kind of rocker that cut his hair off, slicked it back, got his eyebrow pierced. No one had seen that before. It was like, whoa. Within days, me and my mates all had swollen, infected eyebrows. We were shoving safety pins in, trying to look like Mike Patton. And then they put out Angel Dust, and it's like, fuck me, what is this? Like, it was like the synths were just monster. And like the first single was Midlife Crisis, and then was it Small Victory? I think Midlife Crisis might have been a double A with Be Aggressive as well. And then obviously I had the massive hit with Easy. And then everything's ruined is on that album as well. That's a masterpiece. And I think that was a blueprint for a lot of the stuff that happened in like new metal and just the way that a lot of bands looked as well, the way American rock bands looked. I think Patton and Faith No More, which is different level. I'm not a massive metaler, and I don't class Faith No More as metal the same way that I don't class Deftones as a metal band. Like I think they're just they're on their own little place.
Right.
Like they're out in space somewhere. Like Deftones, I see them as much as a shoegaze band as I do as a metal band, as a rock band. Like, yeah, I just like them. I like these bands that just kind of go. That they're hard to define, you know. Yeah. And Deftones also get sort of pulled into that new metal thing for no other reason than timing.
Yeah.
It was just when that band started releasing records was when that thing was happening, and it's like Deftones do not sound like Limp Bizkit, or you know, it's like there's a maturity that in their sound and a richness in their sound that, and I don't hate Limp Bizkit or anything, but I just think there's more depth in what the Deftones and Faith No More do than a lot of the new metal bands.
Absolutely. Okay.
I'm just going to apologise to any of your metal fans that are listening. I don't hate metal. I like metal, but I'm just quite selective with what I like.
It's all right. It's all good. No, I'm not going necessarily specifically for a metal crowd, but if they come, they're welcome. Okay. All are welcome here. Filter, take a title of record, not Take a Picture. That's one of the tracks.
I only know Take a Picture. Because they were massive in the States, weren't they? And Take a Picture blew up over here. Now, am I right that was one of them involved in 9 Inch Nails in some way, shape, or form?
I think it was the singer.
Right.
I don't know much about names and dates and stuff. All I know is that this is a fucking killer record.
Yeah.
I haven't really nerded out on it too much, but I thought it might be obscure enough, but clearly not.
Like I own it, but Take a Picture I used to play in the clubs all the time. It was a big tune, and I just there was another track that I can't by them that was on the album. It was a single that I definitely played out as well. But yeah, again, I'm not super knowledgeable.
I'm trying to find it. Skinny.
Yeah.
Big track. Massive. I guess we're going to talk 9 Inch Nails. Downward Spiral.
Yeah. So as we've probably worked out, I'm old as fuck. So I was really lucky, and because where I live like a couple of minutes from Basildon. So what Basildon produced is Depeche Mode, who are one of my all-time favourite bands. And I then become obsessed with Mute Records and dark electronic music in the late 80s. And there was other sort of industrial bands that were coming out on that label, like Nitzareb and stuff like that. And there was bands like the Young Gods. I don't think they were on Mute Records. But then I heard this track called Sin. And it says it comes down to this. And he says within, but it sounds like he's saying within. And I was like, Trent Reznor's singing about me. And I remember hearing Sin and thinking, fuck me, this is a cracking record. And then I heard Head Like a Hole. And then, it was just like, right, this band are now going to be absolute, alternative club floor filler bangers for the next 20 years. And yeah, and to this day, every Friday night at my club, you will hear, oh, fucking hell. What's it? I Want to Fuck You Like an Animal. What's it actually called?
Closer.
Closer, yeah. Closer is still a fixture on the dance floor every Friday night at the club. Yeah,
I think it's called Closer.
It is Closer, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right.
100%. Yeah, I think Trent Reznor's an absolute crazy, interesting, weird, bonkers genius that makes some stuff that's almost unlistenable in places, but continues to push boundaries, and that's what you want from your musicians. Yeah, and I think he deserves the respect, the critical acclaim that he gets.
Absolutely. Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique.
Oh man. So there's a track on there called Eggman, and
yeah,
and it's
this is the one, yeah.
Yeah, so it's my all-time favorite Beastie song. So I'm looking to my right now, and I've bought a signed Beastie Boys piece of artwork, a concert poster, and they're the band for me that when I was 13, 14, License to Ill come out. And maybe the same way that some people got fired up when they heard the Pistols in 77, or when they heard Guns N' Roses, or when they heard Blink, or whatever that thing was that made you want to go fucking crazy. And all of a sudden there was these three douches from America that were talking about getting trashed and some stuff that's not particularly cool now, but we was going out robbing V-dub signs off the front of cars and wearing them and just wanting to be the Beastie Boys. And I loved it. And then I didn't hear Paul's Boutique because the Beastie Boys just disappeared.
Right.
From the, hip hop in the UK maybe got dwarfed by the explosion of like acid house music, and other scenes that were, Manchester, that whole indie explosion. It felt like that album kind of got forgot.
Right.
Then I heard So What You Want, the video I saw on MTV Rocks or whatever, and I was like, fucking hell, this is amazing. And I bought Check Your Head, and I was like, this band, they're still so fucking cool. And they were just talking about skateboarding, which was what we was all about at that point. And it was like, oh man, and then before you know it, you're just thinking, right, I need to go and grow myself a moustache. And because Sabotage drops, and it's like, can't believe what I'm seeing. Like, this band have just evolved again. And this album has got Sabotage on it, and it's got even if you listen to Check Your Head, you've got Something's Got to Give, which is pure blissed out, almost trip hop. And then you've got Time for Living, which is straight up hardcore. And you just think, fucking hell, this band are just fucking geniuses, and whatever they do, they look beyond cool. There's no band ever and I'll argue with anyone that is cooler than the Beastie Boys. The Beastie Boys are the coolest three men have ever walked this fucking earth, right? And and how many bands can you say that for for your whole life, pretty much from like when I was 13 to the last record they released, blew your mind, and you played it and you listened to it and you DJ'd it to the point where I was absolutely blessed a couple of weeks ago to sit down and interview Chuck D from Public Enemy, and Public Enemy's new album come out last weekend with the two remaining Beasties on there as well. And it's like, I just got so excited that I was going to hear their voices on new music, and to watch, to go on Apple TV and watch the Beastie Boys film, the Beastie Boys book. Like, it's just,
the book is amazing.
Oh man,
I haven't read it, but I've got a friend that's my guitarist Charlie is really obsessed with the Beastie Boys, loves it, and he was just always, when he was reading it, just telling me all these stories. Oh, they've apologized for this and they've done this, and then they paid for someone's surgery, gender reassignment surgery, and it's just like, they just sounded like the coolest guys on the planet.
They are.
Going to Tibet, and, just wild lives.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. Like, I can't say enough good things about the Beastie Boys.
Here's one. Counting Crows, August and Everything After.
That looks like it's been well played.
Well, this is the deluxe edition.
Oh,
reissue.
Sorry, I literally thought that was actual tape on it. Like,
oh no, this is part of the art. But
I'm filing this next to David Gray in Questionably Radio 2, right?
Right, yeah.
I got a lot of stick when Mr. Jones come out for playing it in the club.
Right.
Like, people are like, why are you playing this? Like, it's a bit Tom Petty, and like, but
Tom Petty's amazing.
I fucking love Tom Petty, of course, but you don't play Tom Petty in an indie night in 1995.
No, you don't. You don't hit him with Refugee. It doesn't really go down.
I have played American Girl in the Brush a lot, though.
Right.
But yeah, I loved Mr. Jones, and I was like, right, I'm gonna play it. Everyone loved Mr. Jones. It went off, and it almost become a bit of a signature tune for my second set. I would start with that. And it was brilliant. And you know, I actually watched a video to that about a week ago. I was just going down a YouTube thing, and I'll see it, and I was like, I have not watched that for ages. And it sounded brilliant. And that album, I love it. Like Sullivan Street is amazing. Round Here, and like I had if anyone wants to ever listen to Off the Beaten Track, and they want someone that can tell a good story, I sat down with Frank Turner about 2 months ago, and he told this really brilliant story. He was talking about Counting Crows because he chose a Counting Crows record on the podcast, and he said he was doing a gig in Baltimore,
right?
And there's a track on this album called Raining in Baltimore, and he said, and as I was playing like my gig, it started to rain, and I was like, fuck it. Like, because his sister was a massive Counting Crows fan, so he kind of by default then got into Counting Crows.
Right.
And he said, so I just was like, right, I'm going to play it. So I just got the acoustic and just played Raining in Baltimore. And he said, check this out. He said, because he'd met Adam Duritz a few times.
Yeah.
And he said, he walks off stage and there's a message from Adam Duritz. Is it Duritz, isn't it? Adam Duritz.
I think so. I think you're right, yeah.
Saying, dude, my brother's at your show in Baltimore, and he just said you just played my record. And it was like, whoa, man. It was raining in Baltimore, so I played it. And the dude from Counting Crows' brother was there, told the singer from Counting Crows, who then texted me as I walked off stage. That's a moment. I was like, dude, that's good.
Dude, you made it. Frank Turner made it. Here's one. I know you're going to love this one. Reef, Glow.
Right. Interesting.
Right. Oh. Okay.
So I'm not a massive Reef fan at all. At all. When they came out, my friend's band was gigging with them when I can't think what the first album was called with Naked on it. Naked was a big tune that blew up, and I remember liking that. And then I liked Place Your Hands. I really, really like a track on that album called Consideration. Like
track 5.
Yeah, that's my favourite Reef song by a mile. And they were huge, and and I didn't dislike them, but I had mates that loved Reef,
Right.
and they just weren't that band for me. Like
Okay.
I played them in the clubs all the time,
Yeah, well, I thought you would have, and I thought would have been you'd have a good memories
but
because of they do you favors with
right.
that.
So I had Jack on the podcast last week,
Right.
and he's so cool, so cool. He's just got that kind of West Country accent, and he was like, "All right, rocker." He just kept calling me rocker. It was lovely, and he was so much fun. It was just a lovely dude. And Andy Taylor from Duran Duran is now in Reef. Like that's quite fucking crazy.
Right.
Like, but yeah, like I have no issue with Reef at all, and if they
Right.
come on the radio, I'll enjoy it. But I'm not I wouldn't say I'm a big Reef fan.
Okay.
But where was I going to go with this? But when I mentioned at the very beginning, the thing that I don't like, I said I didn't like two bands. One was the Lars, and the other band that you're meant to like that I do not like is Led Zeppelin.
That is, I'm shocked actually by that.
So,
Wow.
because and Reef made me think of it. I'm not massively into riffs, like riff driven music. Like that whole concept of like sweaty rock and roll isn't for me.
Right.
Like, and I guess like that with bands like Zeppelin, it's all about the riffs, isn't it? And like, and I don't like Robert Plant's voice. But yeah, and so I think in the mid-90s, what was going on in alternative music, one side of it, I liked a lot more, and Reef were more towards that kind of more retro rock sound,
right?
Which I didn't grow up listening to. I grew up listening to Depeche Mode and the Smiths and REM and things like that. So mine was more, I guess, more sort of a bit more of a sort of straightforward songwriting approach to it, rather than it being led by a riff. I don't know if that's right to say that.
No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't like songs that are all powered by riffs. But then I've already been sitting here pulling myself off over Just Because by Jane's Addiction, and that's pure riff. So yeah, I'm talking bollocks. But yeah. No, I've got the episode with Jack Besant from Reef is a real sweet episode. He's such a top dude.
Here's the next one: Raw Power, Iggy and the Stooges.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a fucking dude he is, man.
Right.
Did you do you listen to his show on Six Music?
You know what? I've never heard it.
Man, it's so good. Like
I bet it is.
He just picks incredible records, and his voice, you think Howard Stern's voice sounds smooth through the radio. Like you hear Iggy's deep voice, it's like, fuck me, that's amazing. And then I remember seeing him do Lust for Life on Jules Holland with Queens of Stone Age and
they did that.
Is it Matt? Who's Arctic Monkeys?
Josh Homme.
Who's the Arctic Monkeys drummer? Matt Elders, is it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
that sounds like it's probably right. But
he's playing drums, and Josh Homme's playing, and then they just start playing Lust for Life, and then Iggy just bursts out. And Iggy's got to be about 140 now, isn't he? And he's like, and he was just tearing it up. And now when you think, fuck me, that's so cool. Like, yeah, just incredible artist. Absolutely incredible.
Next one. Ready?
Yeah.
Dead Kennedys, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables.
Again, if we're talking about, bands that just fucking ripped up the rule book like the Stooges and just went, right, we're going to just tell it how it is, then, Dead Kennedys, man. Yeah. Oh, fucking... These are important bands. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
These are bands that people find solace in. These are people that find their identity through these bands. They find friends that, imagine being back at college in the States back when that stuff was happening, and Minor Threat was happening, and and just feeling like you ain't found your place or your tribe, and then all of a sudden you see someone in a Dead Kennedys t-shirt or with a Dead Kennedys record, you'd be like, man, I got to go and talk to him. And bands like that, man, so fucking vital.
We had the really good fortune of going on tour with the Dead Kennedys. We opened up for them 3 times, I think it was.
Wow!
And it was just, there was a moment I was sat on the stage and we'd just done a sound check, and I just looking behind me, and they had the backdrop with the big DK logo on it, and I was like, this is a moment here. This is just a full circle moment, man. It was madness. It was
That's
forever.
Incredible, dude.
Yeah, it was great. It was good fun. Yeah. Still doesn't feel kind of real. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it shouldn't do though, should it?
No, I don't want it to, because the real is boring, isn't it?
Magic's not meant to feel real, is it?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Now we've already mentioned these guys before. Porno for Pyros.
Yeah.
Self-titled, I think.
Yeah. Didn't really deliver. Like I had big expectations, and I thought it was all right. Like,
right.
I wanted the next installment, and it was probably in fairness, it was probably more me than the band. It was like I wanted more Jane's Addiction, and I got Porno for Pyros, which, you know, if someone would have said to me, "Oh, there's a new band called Porno for Pyros," and I would have put the album on, I would have gone, "This is really cool."
Yeah,
but
you knew, you had expectation.
That's exactly that, and that's what sort of probably took the shine off of it.
All right, last two. Now, I want to say, oh well, this one's gonna deliver the goods, but I don't know now actually because I've assumed a few things in this conversation, and you've been like, nah, not really into that. But In Utero, Nirvana.
Yeah, one of the greatest records ever made.
Oh, thank God!
Like,
thank God
the fucking production on that record. Oh,
Steve Albini,
mate.
Oh,
like, who did I see just recorded with Steve Albini? Put an album out this week. Who just released an album with Steve Albini? There's a bit
Bob Mould.
No.
Oh
God, I literally read it yesterday, and it was like, I've recorded with Albini. That's going to be amazing. I mean, I've, like the Lars and like so many of like Jane's Addiction, as a DJ in an alternative club, I've played a lot of Nirvana, a lot.
Yeah,
you know, over and still do, because it's wonderful. And so Nirvana's one of them bands that for me, I sort of I'd never listened to them because it's Nirvana, and it's like, I know everything about Nirvana. I've not listened to Nirvana forever. It's like, they're just there now. And and then about 4 months ago, I was just walking through London, and I put on, is it Live and Loud?
Yes, that's on one of the Super Deluxe box sets.
The MTV show that they played.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that and just thinking, oh my God. And that come on, and I was like, I've just remembered these are one of the most important bands, definitely in my lifetime, if not ever. Yeah. And just that chang of Drain You before it kicks.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally just got goosebumps. Like, I'm listening to it, and you know, it's a given. Grohl's on fire, you know.
Yeah.
Pat Smear's just a fucking uber dude, you know. Chris does what Chris does and owns it, and then you just forget like the pop sensibilities of Nirvana. You know, lots of people can go, I can write a fucking punk record. But you try and write a pop record, you try and write a song that's got hooks, choruses that everyone's going to sing along with, everyone's instantly going to respond to when it gets played loud.
Yeah.
Nevermind's the greatest pop record ever made. Every song on Nevermind is literally the rule book for making pop music. It's like, oh my God, that chorus. And that's not even the chorus, that's the pre-chorus. Fuck, it's the chorus. Oh my God. It's like, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And what also, let's not overlook, he's got the fucking most insanely great voice.
Yeah.
His voice is amazing. And, you know, where could that have gone? I mean, there's rumours that there's a recording that he made an album with Michael Stipe. What I would give to hear that, the thought of hearing, you know, post Unplugged, where REM was with, you know, guitars and that, at that point, some kind of somber record with Kurt and Michael Stipe. Oh, fuck me, what I would give to hear that.
Yeah. If I think about it too much, I genuinely get a bit sad.
Yeah.
And I don't even know him. Didn't even know him. All right, this is the last one. I realise that we've been going on a while now. I've been really enjoying this. Grace by Jeff Buckley. How are you on this one? This is new to me. I'm not versed in this. This is a new acquisition.
Yeah, do you know what? You've picked all the records that are the ones that are divisive between me and my friends. It's like, bizarrely, Jordan Gray, who I spoke about earlier, like that's probably one of her favourite recording artists of all time.
Right.
And yeah, I get that he's a very talented young man, an amazing musician, a beautiful fucking looking man with a ridiculous voice, like incredible. But I own Grace, and I just, do you know what? As I'm saying this, I had a dream last night that I was doing Jeff Buckley's "Everybody Loves You," everybody, like it's not on that album. I was doing Jeff Buckley at karaoke, falsetto. That'd be fucking diabolical if I ever done that. But yeah, it just literally made me think. Jeff Buckley, I don't get what people get.
Right.
But that's music. You know, everybody should find something that just goes, oh, you know, I adore Billy Bragg, and lots of my pals are like, man, like, what? He can't sing. And I'm like, he can sing the same as anyone can sing, but
he's got a great voice.
It's like, it's what you like. And it's like, and yeah, Jeff Buckley, Last Goodbye is a great record. His cover of Hallelujah is good. I mean, one of my favorite bands is the Smiths. I believe there's a Smiths cover on that album as well. And yeah, I think, you know, I love his dad's music. I'm a big Tim Buckley fan. And yeah, I like Jeff Buckley, but when everybody's like, Grace is in my top 5 albums of all time, it wouldn't be in my top 200.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've bought this basically off the hype, and I've got a friend who says he says incredible things.
And I've gone back to it. I've gone back to it a lot because you know, I'm
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and it's like because there's a few albums. Like Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, like everyone was like, man.
I've had to do that. And like, absolutely.
And I've gone back and now it's probably in my top 3 albums of all time.
Right.
But it took a while because I was like, when I hear the Beach Boys, I just want to see Michael J. Fox surfing on top of a fucking like van dressed as, you know, as a wolf. Like, and you know, Beach Boys for me was all like surf rock, and that's just this crazy batshit awkward, beautiful, glorious record that's now, you know, like I say, probably one of my favorite. But I had to persevere, and then all of a sudden something just clicked, and I was like, oh yeah,
there it is, like, the penny drop.
Yeah, massively.
I had that with Dark Side of the Moon. Weirdly, I had to put the work in with it until I don't know. I got it. I don't know why. I guess I wasn't. You know that some things, like I'll buy an album and I'll stick it in with the thousands next to it, and I'll be like, one day I'll be ready for you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I'll know it. I'm like, everyone loves this. Everyone I know who's mega smart, mega sophisticated with their music taste, they swear by this. I'm not with this right now, but I'll put it in the collection, and one day I'll come to it, and we'll be friends, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
The penny will drop.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I think that's part of the journey, isn't it?
Definitely, mate. Absolutely.
Right. Nice one, Stu. I appreciate your time. I know we've really gone over. So hopefully I haven't screwed up your day.
No, mate, it's been an absolute privilege getting to talk to you about records and stuff. And yeah, man, you're good at this.
Oh, thank you very much. Cheers, man. Big thank you to Stu Whiffen for being in a 2-parter episode of The Giant Pod. You can find all of his appropriate links in our show note description box. Please leave a review, like and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram at Andy_S1S. This was produced by Harry Williams, the greatest of all time producer. Check us out next week on The Giant Pod. Thanks.